Most advice about consistency always comes back to habits and routines and building systems, which is useful, but something that I found to be important in actually staying consistent in anything over a long period of time is having the willingness to be a beginner. And I want to use the gym as an example for this video because I think that's where I've learned this the most clearly. I was a competitive athlete for many years, so the gym was part of the deal for me. It was never optional. I had to show up in the gym day in and day out in order to perform at the level that I wanted to perform at. And when I stopped competing, I still kept going in the gym and it still remained a really important part of my routine. And that's because I built a relationship with it because it became part of who I am, or it's become part of who I am and how I like to take care of myself. And what I've noticed thinking back to all of the years I've been in the gym is that the moments where I've been the most engaged, most curious, and most genuinely excited to show up are the times when I was learning something new. And the moments when I've felt the most bored or felt like I wanted to skip, or the times when I was going through the motions, were when I'd gotten too comfortable. These were the times when I knew exactly what I was doing and I knew exactly what to expect. And I felt like there was nothing left for me to figure out because I'd gotten there. So when I think about this now, I realize that comfort has actually been a barrier for me in being consistent. And I think about how I approach fitness now. And even after years of being in the gym, I continue to put myself in beginner situations. I like to try new movements. I like to take opportunities to go to new classes or join new programs, even if it's uncomfortable. And I've learned to put my ego aside and to put aside the desire of being competent and looking competent. I've learned to move through these uncomfortable emotions knowing that on the other side of the discomfort is curiosity and this opportunity to learn, and also the satisfaction of getting even just a tiny bit better at something. And that is essentially what makes consistency sustainable. I don't think it's mastery, I think it's curiosity. Personally, I'm curious where I'll be if I'm consistent with anything for a month, 2 months, a year. I'm curious where that consistency will take me, what my life will look like, how I'll change. And it has nothing to do with me actually mastering the thing itself. And there's another thing that I noticed about the the beginner's mindset as it relates to consistency. And I think that when you are a beginner, you give yourself permission to not know what you're doing. The pressure to perform essentially disappears. And you know you're not there to impress, you're actually there to learn. And that's a completely different relationship with experience because your intention is different. Whereas when you are someone that's been doing something for a while, sometimes you feel like you should know what you're doing, and maybe you measure yourself against past performances, and that also can get very exhausting at times. But essentially, the beginner doesn't really have to perform. The beginner just shows up and tries. And I think that's a more sustainable way to gain consistency in anything over a long period of time. So there are a few things that I would like to share that have helped me stay consistent over the years. And I want to share them because I think they're practical and they might be useful to you. So the first thing is celebration. I am very competitive, and sometimes when you are very competitive, it can lead to you gauging where you are with where you were yesterday and the month prior, the year prior. And sometimes that can be defeating if you feel like you're not making as much progress as you would like. But for me, I prefer to celebrate how far I've come. And I think that removes a lot of unnecessary noise because I'm celebrating where I am relative to where I was in the past. And I'm not looking at where I am relative to anyone else. So it becomes about my own progression. And that's something that has helped me stay consistent. The second thing is bringing fun to the process. So changing things up, trying new things, you know, keeping yourself on your toes before boredom sets in, and also giving myself permission to not wait until I've mastered one thing before I can explore something else. The fun is a really important part of building consistency. It's what makes you want to come back and keep learning. And the third thing, and maybe the most important thing, is just genuinely believing that there's always something new to learn. In the context of fitness, I've taken a learner's mindset and realizing, okay, there's more I can learn about movement, about my body, about what I'm capable of. And I think that approach has kept me humble and it's kept me curious. And I think being humble and curious is a really good place to be when you're trying to build something long term, build a long term habit or a routine or a skill set. But when I think about it, this experience and this learning can be taken beyond the gym. The gym is just where I've learned it probably more clearly, and I'm connecting those dots. But the same mindset, the willingness to be a beginner, to know what you're not doing yet, to show up anyway, and to stay curious. This is something that I've had to apply everywhere in coaching, in building a business, in creating content, in being a traveler. In all of these areas, I've had to take on a beginner's mindset. And there were so many moments when ego got in the way, where I wanted to look like I knew what I was doing, but I didn't, where I felt uncomfortable with feeling incompetent. And I, felt this pull back and not wanting to try until I was more ready. And what I've learned over and over, time and time again, is that the willingness to be bad at something is not a weakness. It's actually, I would say, it's like a prerequisite for getting good at something, because readiness comes from showing up over and over and over again as a beginner until one day you look up and you realize, oh, I've actually become kind of good at this and I know what I'm doing. Well, let me go find something else to be bad at and to start this process over again. So, if there's anything I want you to take from this message, oh my gosh, I need some water. If there's anything I want you to take from this message, it's to stay a beginner on purpose for as long as you can, because that's exactly where the growth is.